Hello my dear friends and welcome to Study IQ. I am Joyshi Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about the Sample Registration System Survey. Now let us first look into the current affair. What is the current affair? So the Sample Registration System Survey has been compiled by the Registrar General of India and the latest report has been recently released. That is the 2017 Sample Registration System Survey data has been released recently. So in this report, it has been highlighted that the total fertility ratio or the TFR in India is declining, which is a positive thing. Now the sex ratio is worsening, which is a negative thing. So this is the highlight of the Sample Registration System Survey, and based on this highlight we will see what is SRS or Sample Registration System. We will also see what are the highlights mentioned, and we will also understand what are the concerns and what is the way ahead. So let us start. Let us first understand what is a Sample Registration System or an SRS. So a Sample Registration System or an SRS, this is compiled by the Registrar General of India, that is the RGI. Now, the Government of India started sample registration systems in the year 1960s. So, this was initiated in 1960s by the Government of India, and it aims to provide reliable estimates of birth and death rates. So, this is at the state level and also at the national level. So the purpose of sample registration systems is to provide estimates about the birth and death in the state levels and also at the national level. Now, it also provides data regarding fertility and mortality in the country. Now again, this is at the state level and also at the national level. So at the state level and at the national level, the sample registration system provides reliable data regarding birth, death, fertility, mortality, etc. Now within the state levels, this registration system provides data separately for urban areas and also for rural areas. So we can say that this is a comprehensive data. And in this survey, the sample units in the urban areas, the sample units are blocks, and in the rural areas the sample units are villages. Now the sample units are replaced in every 10 years. So this is briefly about sample registration system. Now let us come to the highlights of the sample registration system, which is the most important part for your examination. Now the first one is regarding the birth rate. What is meant by a birth rate? A birth rate is the total number of live births per 1,000 in a population in a particular year or in a particular period. So this is number of live births per 1,000 population. Now we need to understand what is CBR or what is crude birth rate. The crude birth rate at the national level during 2017. This is because the data has been released for the year 2017. So the crude birth rate for 2017 at the national level is 20.2. It means there is a decline of 0.2 points over 2016. In 2016, it was 20.4. So there is a decline in the birth rate. We are talking about the birth rate. This is at the national level. Now, what is meant by crude birth rate? So this birth rate is called crude birth rate because it does not take into account the age or sex differences among the population. So sex or age differences are not considered. That is why it is called crude birth rate. Now there is a decline in the birth rate in the population. So this is the first highlight. Now if we come to state-wise analysis of birth rates, the highest birth rate has been registered in the state of Bihar. So Bihar has a crude birth rate of 26.4, where the national average is 20.2. And the lowest birth rate is recorded in Kerala. Kerala is a southern state, and in Kerala the birth rate is only 14.2, which is much lower than the national average of 20.2. So this is regarding the birth rate. Now coming to the death rate. The death rate, here also we are considering the crude death rate because we are not considering the age or the sex. So the crude death rate at the national level is 6.3 in the year 2017. Now the maximum death rate has been recorded in the state of Chhattisgarh with 7.5, which is higher than the national average. Now, the minimum crude death rate has been recorded in the National Capital Region of Delhi, where it is only 3.7, much lower than the national average. So, what can be the reasons for this? This is because of the provision of medical facilities or public healthcare services in the state. Now, the third highlight is regarding the sex ratio. Now, if we look at the sex ratio is the number of females per 1000 male population. So, this is sex ratio. Now, we have discussed in the beginning of this lecture itself that the birth rate in India has declined, whereas the sex ratio in India has worsened, which is a negative indication. Now, in India, we already have a skewed sex ratio. It means that the sex ratio in India is favorable towards the male or the. Now, according to this report, the sex ratio in India is the lowest, all-time lowest, which is recorded at 896. Now, if you look at the population census of 2011, it was 940 females per 1000. Now, it has again come down to 896. Now, if we look at the state-wise analysis, we will see that Chhattisgarh again has reported the highest sex ratio at birth, which is 961. Now, the state of Haryana has recorded the lowest with 833. So, this is the state-wise analysis. Now, next is regarding the fertility rate. The total fertility ratio, that is TFR. What is TFR? TFR is the number of children expected to be born per woman during her entire span of reproductive period. Now, to make it more clear, a woman after attaining puberty till the menopause, that is the period of reproduction for a woman. So, the number of children that are expected to be born for a woman during the reproductive period is known as fertility rate. Now, the Indian women's total fertility rate has fallen to 2.2 in 2017, and this is just above the recommendation of the WHO, World Health Organization. So, WHO has recommended for a fertility rate of 2.1, and in the case of India, it is a little higher than the WHO recommendation at the rate of 2.2. Now, this is also a positive development, and if we consider urban and rural women, both in case of urban and rural women, the total fertility rate has been declining. And the factors that has contributed towards this reduction in the fertility rate includes better education for women, access to healthcare facilities, better awareness about contraception methods and the adoption of contraception methods. So these are the factors that has contributed towards lower fertility rates in urban as well as rural India. Now let us come to IMR, that is infant mortality rate. Now the infant mortality rate has recorded a marginal decline. So now it is 33. Earlier in 2016 it was 34. So there is a 1 point decline. Now, if we look at the state-wise analysis, the state of Madhya Pradesh has recorded the maximum IMR of 47, and the state of Kerala has recorded the lowest IMR, which is 10. Now, if we look at rural and urban areas separately, we will see that both in rural as well as urban areas, there is a marginal decline in the infant mortality rate. Now, if we look at the key concerns, the first one is regarding the missing girls. The declining sex ratio means that around 117 lakh girls are missing in the country. Now here if we look at the sex ratio at birth, it has been improving over the last few years, and now the sex ratio at birth has been improving, but the sex ratio or the total sex ratio is not improving. It means that there are more number of missing girls in the country. And if you look at the sex ratio at birth, in urban areas, it is lower than the rural areas. Now, if we look at the state-wise analysis, the sex ratio at birth has risen in states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, Gujarat, etc. So, these states were considered as less progressive states traditionally with regard to sex ratio at birth. But in these states, we have witnessed an improvement. Now, if we look at traditionally progressive states with regard to sex ratio at birth, for example, the state of Kerala, which is considered as a traditionally progressive state with regard to sex ratio at birth. Now, these states, for example, Kerala, there is a decline in the sex ratio at birth from 974 to 948. So these are the key concerns in the report. Now, what is the way ahead or what has to be done? The government has to take policy action in order to overcome this issue. Now, retargeting of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is a very feasible option. Also, the government has to come up with other policies that will promote the education, healthcare and overall development of girl children in India. You can find the PDF of this lecture on our website www.studyiq.com. Thank you.